Hi everyone, I'm Margie, and today I'm going to make some bows for you for your Easter baskets. And of course you can use this technique to make any bow you want for weddings. I may make some pretty wedding bows. They'll have a little bit more different types of ribbon in them, and some tulle type ribbon and satin ribbon because they're for weddings. But this is for Easter baskets, and I have an Easter basket here that has a pretty loop bow, wire rimmed loop bow. And you can also use a bow just like this. So you can put that right on the very top of your basket as well. And I'm going to show you how to do that. It's very, very pretty. So we'll get started in just a moment. You want to make sure that the bow isn't so big that you cover up what's inside the basket. I know it's fun to make big bows and fancy bows, but sometimes a bow is just to make a basket look prettier. Now to start making this bow that looks like that, you want to have your wide ribbon. This is a very sturdy ribbon and it's wired, so that's a really good one to work with. And then you want something narrow that you can cut and run through the back of your bow, so this is what you use to tie the bow onto your basket. Okay, so you're just going to cut a piece off just to have it ready. Then you also need, this is a paper clip that I undid a paper clip, and I just bent the end over to make a little loop. That I'll put through the back later on to run this piece of white ribbon through. So that's all you need. Decide how long I want the tails, and then give it a twist. Make your bow, your loop small to start with. It's a little trick I learned, because you can always pull it through when you're done. Otherwise, if you make them big and then you pull it tight, you've got these big loops. So I just sort of squished it there on top of my other one in the back. I turned it, gave it a turn and twist, and kind of squished it together. Then I'm going to go around the back of I went around the back of that loop. I'm going to go around the front. I'm going to go all the way around. Okay. Now where my fingers were holding in the back, I'm going to bring this around and through that little space there. But I want to twist this because this is a one-sided ribbon, and the polka dots in the darker purple side is here, and then it looks lighter there, so you got to twist it before you want to twist it the right direction. Twist it this way, because you can imagine now your loop is going to come out that way, right? So you'll see your dots. So you give it that twist, and you come through the hole. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll actually make my loop like that, pull some, and then I can pull that through. And then you can just pull. If you pull both bow things pretty tight, see how the loops got bigger? Not almost the size I really want. And so always start with your loop smaller. Okay, and I always leave the front bigger because I think that looks nice. Okay, and so if you pull it really tight, you'll lose that nice loop in front. So you take your paper clip and you turn your bow over, run that through the back, take your ribbon, put it through that loop. Okay, and then bring that part through your bow. Okay, and now you have your bow ready to tie onto your basket. Here's my basket. Getting ready to make a basket. Whoop, I need to cut this off here. So trying to just sort of cut wherever you think you want your tail to end. And you just take these back here, you make them the same length, and you tie it on. And be a little bit crooked when you tie it on. This should tie it really tight back there. Okay, and tie it on with a bow. Using these to tie a little bow, and that way People can untie it. Just make sure people know to do that so they don't cut it. Right, now the other thing that you want to do is you want to cut. I turn these and I go always the point of the V of the scissor, this part towards your bow. Then you'll have a little point. So there's your bow, and you can do that with this as well. That's about how you make it. You make it a little tighter. I didn't make it too tight, but that looks nice, I think. Now, before you get started making your bow, you want to have everything that you need for the bow. So we have our ribbon, and I have a very flimsy ribbon here that's wired. It's really very nice. And I always cut a piece off long enough so I can tie off my bow so it stays together. I have a clip that we can clip the bow when we're ready, right before we tie it off. That will help hold the bow together. When you get started making your bow, I don't cut ribbon off. I just kind of unravel a little bit of ribbon I know I'm going to need. And if I need more, I do more. So you want to start by seeing how much of a tail you want off of your bow. Okay. Now you're going to want to use a little bit more because you're going to want to cut some off to make your little V at the end of your tails. So go ahead and start by giving it a twist. And then see how big you want your bow and do the loops half that size. Okay. And then just hold it there and give it a twist. I kind of loosen up on the bow a little bit, twist it, and then grab it again. And get your loops to where you think they're going to be. Okay. Hold it down, loosen it up, twist it a little. Twist it. Twisting it, if you're going to twist it, try to twist it all the way around so when you make your next loop, it's going to be a nice flat loop. Okay. So I'm holding it very nicely and tightly within my other hand. I let loose a little bit just to twist it, but then I hold it tight again. Bring your loops around. Let go. I'm holding it with both hands when I let go. Worst thing, I mean, when you're making a bow, okay, the worst thing that can really happen is it pops out of your hand all over the place. So hold tight. One more loop. And when you're, see how the tail is on this side? You always want to make sure when you're done with all your loops that your tail is on the opposite side of the original tail. Otherwise, you're going to have the tail coming off one side, both tails coming off of one side of your basket, which is a little odd. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and cut this, just probably the same length as the other one, maybe give it a teeny bit more room. Okay. Choose my back of my bow. You can either do it by hand, like this, which is probably the best way to do it, because if you put that clip on and it pops off, that's a problem. Okay, it's just a little harder to tie this back in the back if you don't have somebody to help you. My sister always wants me to tie her bows off while she's holding them. It's nice to have a partner in bow making. So if this isn't quite in the center, it's nice if this one's pink. It doesn't have to be, it can be any color you want. And you know, curly ribbon does a good job tying things off as well. Okay, so now I've tied it, but I'm going to tie it one more time. Just pull it as tight as you can because it makes the center of your bow very small. Okay, so I'm just going to make, if I can get it, a knot. Now let me get the basket and I'll show you. We don't usually start opening up our bows to make them fluffy until they're on the basket. And I always tie it on with a bow, I mean with a little bow tie, you know. So, and I tell people that, so they will just make a little bow. Then I tell them that they can undo the pink part and they can save their bow rather than starting to cut it off somehow. Okay, so now you want to take your loops and pull them opposite directions. Okay. Now when you're all done, you take your edges, the wire edges of the ribbon, and you put them together. Figure out how long you want your tails to be, and make sure the point of your V of the scissor is always toward the bow. That's how we remember, toward the bow. And so you're cutting down to the tips. I always try to do it in one cut because then you don't have any ragged edges. See, now here, when you go and you do all that twisting, I don't know if you can see it, but there's wire sticking out. And if you're giving this to children, you have to be very careful about everything like that. So you definitely want to make sure you cut all that off. So the point is near the bow. For some reason, when you twist ribbon like that, the wires come out. But you want to do the same thing with the pink ones back here because they have a little bit of a ragged edge. And when I usually loop this around my finger a little bit and straighten it out okay, so it looks a little better than that hanging there, see? You don't have to make it too obvious that you did that, but it just makes it a little bit nicer. So there you go. There is an Easter bow. I hope you have a very nice Easter holiday.